you never know. All you're trying to do is do your research and see what things are selling for currently beforehand, what you think that they may turn into. But everybody's trying to get a deal.
How's it going, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wax Talk with Raw Mints. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Bruce.
And on today's episode, we're going to be talking to you about shill bidding and other tactics online. We just kind of wanted to make people aware of it if you aren't already, and maybe give people a refresher that maybe you already know about it and what to kind of look out for, and in a way how to protect yourself when purchasing online with auctions. But before we get into that, please be sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast if you aren't already. Share it with a friend, share it with somebody that might be interested about the hobby and hearing both of us talk about it every week and share our perspectives. You can also follow us on Instagram at Raw Mints. That's where we do the majority of our content sharing, and that's also where you can find us. So if you ever have any questions, or if you have anything that you wanted to talk to us about, definitely reach out to us and shoot us a message, and we will respond as soon as possible. For now, let's get into today's episode. So what is shill bidding? When it comes to the hobby, whether you're on eBay or you're on PWCC or any of the other auction houses, golden auctions, there's something that's been happening for some time, and people are aware of it, and we wanted to make all of you aware of it if you aren't already. And so what happens is a seller posts a card for auction, and PWCC got into some trouble recently. Well, I don't know if trouble, I don't know, they're probably still in litigation, but they pretty much got banned from hosting auctions on eBay. It's hard to say what that's in reference to. It's hard to say if maybe there was some sort of issues behind the scenes between PWCC Marketplace and eBay, but eBay pretty much sent out an email saying that PWCC was involved in shill bidding. I don't know if there was a way they could prove it, but it was enough for them to kick them off of the platform for auctions. So what happens is, say like a seller through PWCC or PWCC themselves solicited a card on eBay, and they would start these kind of internal bidding wars to not only bring more attention to the auction on eBay. So they might have had maybe two or three people, two or three of the same usernames post, just kind of building up each bid, just outbidding each other just to get more traction going, as well as any actual buyer, not the shill bidders, would be placing their highest bid. And you can see that on certain ends, on certain aspects, you could see what the highest bid is, and right at the very last second, for whatever reason, it ended up closing at your auction price. So say that you set a $200 bid on an auction, and maybe it stayed at $75 up until the last second, which is not uncommon for prices to go up, but for it to sell for $199.99, it's just kind of sketchy. It's happened back in the day. I talked about it on a previous podcast about the Mastro's auction ran by Bill Mastro, who's a shady character, and he got caught for that and spent some time in jail for that. I don't know if it was specifically for that, but there was other things. But this is just something that's happening out there, and it's happened for some time. And I'm sure if you're in the hobby and you do a lot of purchasing on eBay, this is something that you've probably encountered without even knowing it. To me, it's fraud. There's not really any way around it. It may not seem like it's that big of a deal, but if a card is really going for, let's say, $100, and somebody's just wants the card a lot, so they bid $250, So that's a pretty high max, even if that card is recently gone for 100. And for whatever reason, somebody out there is just trying to maximize your bid amount, and they make it to where it pretty much sells way over what you should have sold for. And the trick is with these bigger auction houses and a lot of these bigger players in the market is they'll do this shill bidding just to kind of increase, whether they have consignment with people, whether they sell for other people, or they just sell for themselves. Just maximizing what you get for the card is the goal of an auction, but doing it in these practices, it's shady as hell, and I don't think there's a place for it in the hobby. How do you feel about shill bidding and people that do this regularly, whether they've been caught or not?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Being a longtime collector in the hobby, like if that's the way things are going to be, I would much rather see a card in person. Even if I have to wait for a long time to be able to see the card in person, whether it's at a card show or a card shop, it just turns me away from online bidding because we've done it. I've done it. I mean, as far as in the past, like bidding on a card and losing literally by like maybe 50 cents to $1. And that sucks. And that these are cards that like I'm bidding on like at the last minute, because you always think that like at the end of the day you could bid on a card within the last like couple seconds and win it. That's not how it goes. Like people either have a set price or they have like some sort of motive behind it that helps them just keep that card regardless. So like I don't have that advantage because I don't buy a lot of cards online, but at the same time, I've been fortunate enough to pick up cards in auction, but most of the time I feel like it doesn't work out that way.
Right. And the whole reason I wanted to have a specific episode about this is that there's ways to protect yourself from shill bidders. There's not a way, there's a few things that you can do, and this is pretty much the reason why I wanted to speak about this, is because it is shady, and I mean the internet is shady in general. Anything that's based online, you're at risk to something. You're at risk to maybe fraud, you're at risk to maybe identity theft, but you're also at risk to just shady people and shady practices. And I've seen it many times, like I said, with the examples of, oh, that's kind of strange. It ended up closing for 50 cents less than my highest bid. And that's not uncommon. But the way to protect yourself from shill bidders out there is doing your research. Like we always stress on this show, is doing your research, whether it's market research, whether it's price research, just history of sales. That's why using eBay to your advantage is key, because you can search for a card and you can look at all of the sold listings. You can look at all of the completed sales, whether it's auction or buy it now prices. And if you're doing some auctions, if you're participating in auctions as far as being a buyer goes, a way that you can protect yourself is to just familiarize yourself with the price that card that you're looking for, that you're planning on bidding on, goes for. And I'm not talking what it's currently listed at, because there's a lot of cards that, there's a reason why people list their cards as buy it now, and that's the reason why we do it, is because we list to be the lowest available on eBay. And that's not always the case for when auctions close. They could be closing for much less than the lowest buy it now, which is the advantage of purchasing via auctions. But if you just familiarize yourself with, say you're looking for a certain card, and you go to the sold listings, the completed listings, and you look at both the auction and the buy it now prices. And the way I do it is, if it's a card that I'm picking up, I try to find as much data as I can on it. So I'll look at how much is currently going for, so the lowest buy it now price on eBay. That's my first step. My second step is I'll switch the listings to sold and completed listings, and I'll look at the auction. I don't look at the all listings because it can be hard to read sometimes. So I'll look at auction, what they've gone for, and I would select ended recently and what they've gone for as far as auction price goes. And then I'll also select the buy it now price, what they've gone for ended recently. So let's say that there's a card listed on the lowest available for a card is $200, right? And the recent, ended recently buy it now card for that same card is maybe, 180, 195, 175. And then the auctions, the recently ended auctions, let's say it's going for like 130, 140. And depending on how recent they are, that's usually what I'm going to base my decision on my highest auction price. Because I know that if there's enough data to support that, okay, that card is going for 130-ish, 140 in auctions, I think that that's a fair price to pay for it. If I agree with the price. If I don't agree with the price, then I just won't bid on the auction. But I'll set my highest auction, my limit for, maybe 140 for that card. And I just won't touch it. I won't go back and forth with somebody. I'm not going to be in a bidding war. If it's a card that I really, really want and that auction, my highest bid ends up being higher than what it's the lowest available, I'll just buy the lowest available and just be done with it,
Yeah. And keep in mind that everything is subject to change. All you have really in this market right now is going off of recent sales from the past week, month, whatever. And you're countering in as far as whether it's off season, in season, at the hype. All those things make a difference as far as factoring in, your purchase. The market is completely subject to change. All you can do is go off of what you see is what it's selling for, pick it up hopefully below that. And then at the end of the day, you may lose a profit because that player may become injured or whatever the case may be, or the pop report grows much higher. Those are things to factor in, but just believing in what you're picking up that way, I think is a huge attribute to the hobby. But you never know. All you're trying to do is do your research and see what things are selling for currently beforehand, what you think that they may turn into. But everybody's trying to get a deal. Whether you're at a show, a shop, whatever, everybody's trying to get a deal. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I want to pay a fair price, but I want to pay the lowest fair price, and if my lowest fair price is higher than the person's willing to let go of it for, then it is what it is. I'm not picking that card up, because you determine your prices. We've talked about this before, is determining your value for it. And if it doesn't jive with what I'm going for, or if it's out of my budget, or if it's more than what I'm willing to pay for it, then it is what it is, man. You have that decision. But when it comes to picking up via auctions, I can't tell you how many times I've been wanting a certain card. Even, for example, I had been wanting to pick up a PSA 9 1996 Upper Deck Rookie Exclusives Kobe Bryant PSA 9, and right now the lowest available is going around like 275, 290, sometimes even 300 when it comes to buy it now. And so what I did was I set my price for 200. That $75 off is good for me, and I didn't touch it, even though it was a card that I really wanted, and a card that I had been after and been wanting to replace my PSA 10 with. And I was willing. I just put the bid at 200, and I just forgot about it, really. And was it a card that I was really after and I was really trying to chase and maybe get a better deal for? I may have gotten in a bidding war up to like 250 or 260 because that's the lowest available that I could just straight up buy it for. But being that this is a card that I'm going to put in my PC at some point, I was okay with just placing the bid and just leaving it there. And if I won, I won. And if I didn't, then it is what it is. And I ended up getting it for $200. So, which who knows if it was a Probstein auction. So there's a chance that, it strangely closed for my highest bid. But to me, that's a deal. That's a steal. And
yeah, but as long as you feel comfortable with it, I mean, that's really all that matters.
And that's the value that I was okay with. Like, obviously, I'm hoping that I won the auction, but if I didn't, then I may have tried to find a best offer and maybe sent something in for $250 or whatever. But that's one of the ways that you can protect yourself from shill bidding is you can have the self-control to not want to go back and forth with somebody unless it's a card that you've been after and maybe it's really rare and it's super hard to find or super hard to come by, or it's a very low pop in the grade that you're looking for. It is what it is. If it's a grail card for you and you're willing to go back and forth with the bidder, whether it's a normal bidder or a shill bidder, then that's up to you. But me personally, how I protect myself and how I prevent myself from even just getting involved with the shill bidder on the other end is I'll just set my limit, and my limit's my limit. I'll do my market research to see what it's going for, what I feel a fair price is, and I'll set my limit at that, and I just won't touch it. I won't go back. I'll get my notifications whenever the auctions are ending, and I just hope for the best. I don't go back and forth with somebody because you never know who's on the other end. You never know if it's somebody internal running that account.
Unless it's something you really want and you're willing to battle it down to the last minute, which is a possibility as well.
If it's something super rare, dude, if it's something that's maybe low pop or maybe it's serial numbered really low and you don't see it like ever, it's a really rare card, then yeah, that might be an instance to get in with it. But if it's a card like that upper deck rookie exclusives, like it's not a low pop card. It's not a low print run card, especially for a PSA 9. Like PSA 10s are lower pop, but that's not a card that's going anywhere. That's not a card that's just going to evaporate into thin air. So with cards like that, in that instance where, yeah, I really wanted that card, but it's not as rare as I didn't need to get into a bidding war with somebody. That's something that I would have just been like, okay, I didn't win it today, and try on another auction or try to submit an offer to somebody.
That's just like an overall risk, like, especially, I mean, if you're picking up players that are really hot, stars, rookies, whatever, I mean, you're more susceptible to, shill bidding and stuff like that. If you're picking up like me, like a Dante Culpepper, Edger and James, players like that, I mean, you don't have to worry about that as much. But if you're picking up Luka Doncic,
Zion,
Giannis, Zion, basketball specifically we're talking about, but I mean, you're more susceptible to dealing with that type of thing, depending on the card or the product or whatever it may be.
Right. And that should be all the more reason to just do your research, do your price research, see what it's going for, both auction and buy it now, and what it's currently listed at as far as buy it now, the lowest available, and just don't go over that. Like if it's one of these cards that you're susceptible to dealing with a shill bidder, then don't even risk it. Don't even assume that the person that you're bidding with or the auction that you're bidding on is a shill bidder every time, and protect yourself that way.
You particularly have always been an advocate of like placing your bid for a card that you want and just letting it ride. Whatever happens, happens. And I know you've been successful as far as obtaining cards that way. But for me, like, I feel like it's just like the last like 10 seconds, I'm trying to outdo something that's impossible. Like, regardless of the sport, like it's happened with Pokemon. Like I'm in the morning driving to work and I'm trying to, place a bid on a card that I lose out on by 75 cents. And that happens, but it just kind of pisses you off more as far as like, not necessarily shill bidding, but who has more time to really defeat you in this sale, especially in auction.
And that's the thing too. There are ways to get back at the shill bidder, because what happens, if it is an internal player within the same person that listed it, like say it's like somebody's friend or somebody's employee that works for them that's doing the shill bidding for them, if you just set your limit and you just don't go over it, and they end up trying to, raise the bid up more and going back and forth, if you just let them have that bid and just move on and know that you'll find another one at a better price or at the same price, like, then they lose. Because in those instances where maybe you did go back and forth and then they got a little greedy and they wanted more and they outbid you and you just bow out, they have to pay for it still. And, right. I mean, if a company is doing the shill bidding, then that's kind of the risk that they're willing to take, is losing it on that fee, on that eBay fee. Because if you're doing shill bidding on your own item and you end up winning the item, you could just relist it, right? But with eBay, they take out their fee whenever there's a sale. If you can practice self-control, if you can practice willpower, and it's not a super rare card that there's not a high population of, or there's not, if it's something that's super rare or very hard to find or very vintage or something, then maybe you can assess your risk that way, and it's maybe the reward is better than the risk, so you could do it that way, or you could just set your limit and that's it. I've won so many auctions that way. And if it's a card that I think is rare, I don't have enough data on, I'll set a fair price that I'm willing to pay for it. And the majority of the time, I end up getting it for a steal. I end up getting it for a lot less than my highest bid, which is nice. But sometimes I get outbid and I'm like, all right, well, that was how much I was willing to pay for it. And if somebody else is willing to pay for it, whether it's a shill bidder or a regular bidder, then it is what it is. You just got to be able to tell yourself it is what it is and believe it, and just.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I mean, being able to accept, what you're willing to pay for a card. And for you, I feel like it's mainly soccer too, you know what I mean? So like the market is a lot more unpredictable. Right. Like I feel like if you were really bidding on like a freaking Mickey Mantle vintage card, or like a Michael Jordan like older insert card, there's more people attached to, bidding on this card, and the seller might have ultimate control, or might know somebody who is trying to obtain that card. There's so many different factors that way. That's why like it scares me away, like shill bidding, like even auctioning online. It really scares me, because I'm just more used to actually seeing a card in person and deciding if I want to make that purchase. Like that's just like an old school way of thinking about it. But with this day and age, I mean, you want to pick up cards, at whatever price, and just it's so much easier being able to open your phone and look at a card and bid on a card. But at the same time, overall, it just takes away from like the experience of like picking up cards. So that's why like I try to stay away from picking up cards on eBay. I do it and I regret it, mainly because I lose on auction. But you know what I mean? Like that's the thing, dude. There's so many cards out there, and it just depends on what you're trying to pick up in general.
Right. But if you're losing the auction, at least you didn't pay more than what you were willing to pay for it, right?
If you trust the process, like you say, like, and you just place your bid and just let it be. But if you're like me and like you get down to the last like 10 seconds, I mean, you can, like I accidentally placed a bid of like $1,000 on a Messi card that I won, you know what I mean, for a couple $100, but it's an accident. You get like super anxious and you want to win a card and you're willing to just like put a number in. And for me, it was like I was trying to, put in like $50 and I put in like $1,500.
That happens too. You're lucky you didn't get shilled on that one.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a pretty penny, man.
Yeah.
But that's really, there's ways to fight these types of people, man. There's ways to protect yourself in this day and age. There just is, and you just have to be able to have the willpower. You have to be able to exercise the restraint. If it is exciting to get down to watch that clock tick down second by second. Whenever you're trying to bid on something, you're trying to win something that you really want. It's exciting to see it count down, and I do bidding on my phone as well as my computer, and once it drops down, you see the price move a little bit, and then the screen will pause, and then it'll go to a new page, and it'll say, "Congratulations, you won this item," or "Unfortunately, you lost the item." And it's so much fun whenever you get the congratulations because you won the auction, and you probably paid, if you did your research, you paid less than you would have for it, and that's always a good thing. But
sometimes you don't, and that's
right.
Another thing I wanted to bring up is like, how about the times where you place a bid and you win something and you're like, damn, I didn't think I was going to win that card.
Right. Well, that's another that's another mistake that you can make when you're early on. I know I definitely did. I was like, oof, I shouldn't have done that. But that's why, if I'm in the mood to pick up some cards and I'm in the mood to place some bids on some auctions, I'll just, place my bids on all the current auctions if they're decently priced, and just let it go, let it ride out. There's definitely been moments where I've been on a bidding spree and ended up winning a lot more of the cards than I thought I was going to. But it is what it is, as long as I did my research and I saw, okay, these cards, whether it's the same player or not, like these cards, or even non-sports cards, like, okay, they're going for about $25-$30 a pop. So I'll bid 20 on each of them, try to get $5 to $10 off. And there's a lot of times that we have our own experiences with selling cards via auction as well. Like we have a following on eBay, and there's people that know about us via Instagram and know, they follow our eBay page, so they get notified whenever we list something new. But we're not a big fish on eBay. Like, we have high feedback rating, but it's not. I think our feedback rating right now is like 1,300 maybe. And there's people that have a feedback rating of like hundreds of thousands, because they do a lot of selling. So
yeah, and we appeal most to like the person that's trying to pick up like a PC card. You know what I mean? Or like a card. We're trying to give people like the advantage of cards at a decent price. That's why, like you said, we're always trying to beat eBay comps in general. Because we don't do auction. We just try to sell a card best offer, and like, trying to give people the advantage of picking up a card at a decent price, so that they feel like they beat, overall comps, whatever. That's important to, at least to us.
Right. You'll end up pretty much getting our buy it now cards. You'll end up getting a better deal than what's out there. If we're already the lowest available and we have it set on we have our buy it now listings set for best offer, 10 times out of 10, you're getting a better price. Like, we'll accept a reasonable offer, even though we're already the lowest on eBay. So it's kind of like you're winning an auction, but whenever we had our auctions, we're just not big enough to run successful auctions. Like, yeah, we've sold cards in auction, but we didn't get nearly as much as we should have for, the even recent auctions that closed, because we just aren't big enough yet. The goal is to get big enough to be able to even consign people's cards, maybe like get big enough to where we know that our auctions have a lot of eyeballs on them and a lot of, paying bidders on it.
Yeah, or just make it simple enough for people to buy, cards below comps without as many fees. Like Nash cards. Nash cards is a perfect example. Someone that like knows what eBay comps are, they sell a card for below comps, and it is what it is. Right. Everybody should be profiting that way. you know, because we pick up so many cards that at the end of the day, it's like, you know, we're not paying comps, let alone, you know, I don't know, any kind of premium price. So we're just trying to pick up cards for our PC, and then at the end of the day, just like, you know, share with the community. If we come across a card that's a big card and we don't care about it, I mean, we're just trying to sell it, get it to somebody's collection, or let them make a profit.
Let them do the investing.
Yeah, let them handle it.
I don't want this to seem that we're attacking certain eBay sellers like PWCC or Prop Scene, because I'm sure there's a lot of times that there are no shill bidding happening, but it's just to get kicked off of a platform, and that's the reason. I don't know. Well, there's smoke, there's fire, you know. But again, if you feel like you've been a victim of shill bidding, if you feel like you've dealt with people on eBay and you realize, it's kind of strange, like you can see the bidding history on eBay. You can see which usernames they block out, the everything in between the first and the last letter or number of the username for identity purposes. But if you're, you know, bidding on certain auction houses cards and you see the same username and it's just going back and forth with another username that's the same, I don't know, it's not as easy to prove, but it's easy to spot patterns. And your best protection is to just not even deal with it, is to just set your bid at a fair price that you think and just forget about it. Don't go back and forth with somebody, because you could become a victim of shill bidding, and that's not cool, man. It's not. There's no place for it in the hobby, but
Yep.
there's a way to combat it, and that is with, you know, doing your price research and setting your highest bid at what you think is a fair price, and just forgetting about it and accepting, you know, sometimes it is what it is if you lose it. So let's get into our pickups and flips of the week. As you all know, I'm a Kobe fan. I PC Kobe cards. I picked up a 1998 Upper Deck Ovation Kobe. This is card number 29, and I picked up a PSA 9 of this. It's one of those types of cards that has a texture to it. It has like a basketball texture. It's kind of like the Upper Deck rookie exclusives, almost exactly like it. And I just like the photography on it. I like the texture aspect of it all, and obviously it's Kobe. Super dope photo on the front, and I picked that up for $45. I believe that I got that in an auction as well, or maybe I got a best offer accepted. But yeah, $45 for a PSA 9. What about you?
My pickup is going to be a Pokemon card from the XY era. This is 2016 Pokemon XY evolution set. This is a Mega Charizard. This is the full art Charizard, which is a beautiful card. I'm looking at it right now, actually distracting me, the rainbow effect. But this was a PSA 9. I picked this up from our friend Brad. Beckett Brad is what I call him. Cards and Shards. And a PSA 9. And I had this card raw that I sold a while back ago. I don't remember what the value was exactly. But I think we had like 80 to 90 trade value in this. And we made a trade. And it's a beautiful card, man. Evolutions is a great set, especially with celebrations coming out. I don't know if this means that this card will gain value or not, but it's sick. Full art Charizard.
Nice, man. That's a nice pickup. My flip of the week, another one, not so much of a long-term flip, but this past January I picked up a 2020 Panini Donruss Optic Bobby Witt Jr. This is card number RP2. This was a hollow rated rookie. I got this in a PSA 9. At the time I picked it up for about $20, like 20 and some change, and I sold it for $50. So not that huge of a flip, but Still doubled my money,
A
man.
flip is a flip. A flip is a flip.
What about you?
Mine is going to be a shout out to the Cardinals, but a 2019 Panini Prism Kyler Murray PSA 9. I sold this card recently at a show for 100 even. I think I had 140 as the price tag on it. I know they've comped from as low as 80 to probably 120-ish. $100 even. With the Cardinals hopefully continuing to do well, I think Kyler Murray could continue to rise in value. I don't know. But base Prism Rookie, PSA 9, $100. I mean, I was happy with it.
Yeah, it's a good flip, man. They're going to go undefeated, so that card's going to be
Hopefully
$700, $800.
Shout out to Eric Castaneda.
Right. For real. But those are our pickups and flips of the week. All right, so do you think that we talked enough about shill bidding and kind of how to protect yourself? It wasn't so much as much of a PSA, but also a what you can do about it, a call to action, and that's just being patient and also just knowing your limit as far as what you're willing to pay for a card, knowing what the card is going for, and just having the self-control to not go back and forth with a bidder, whether it's a shill bidder or not. I think that's the best way to protect yourself. Anything that you wanted to add?
No, I think you especially covered it good enough. You do majority of our online sales pickups, so you know more about that aspect. But for me, it's just like really, if you can look at these cards in person, picking up cards without fees, taxes, whatever. I mean, I think it could benefit you a little bit if you're able to attend a card show or visit a card shop, support your local card shops, or if you're new to the hobby, please look into the card shops around you, support them. I think that is the biggest move, aside from looking online. But if all you have to work with is looking online and buy it nows, auctions, best offers, whatever it may be, just do your best research before you buy anything, I think is the biggest key. But yeah, I mean there's room for everything, depending on what you're into. Always, if you're new to the hobby, collect what you like. We've talked about many times before. I think we mentioned on every episode, did an episode on it. But just kind of do your research and figure out what you're trying to pick up in general. I think that helps a lot.
And having the wherewithal to know that sometimes you're not going to win the auction, and sometimes you might lose that card forever and never get it. It's a possibility. But if it's not a super rare card, you'll always be able to find some sort of version of it that you'll be happy with. And if it's for your PC and it's not for sale, it doesn't matter if it's raw or graded. You just want that card to have it. So never forget about that either. But we really do hope that you enjoyed today's episode and that you learned something from it. You've maybe figured out a new strategy to protect yourself from shill bidding, because it is out there, it does happen, and it will continue to happen. It's like I said, it's easy to spot but hard to prove. So just know that, and just know that, if you just have the self-control and you just know your prices and know the research and what's fair price to you, then you shouldn't have an issue with it. But maybe if you like the excitement of going back and forth with somebody, this might be able to inform you that somebody might have vested interest in that card and getting the best price possible. So you just never know, and this is just kind of a way to look out for yourself. And if you have any friends in the hobby that do a lot of buying on eBay, please share this episode with them as well so we can protect them too. But as always, if you can make sure to subscribe, follow the show, follow the podcast, and continue to support. We really appreciate all of your support and all of your listenership over these past months that we've been putting this out. And we hope that you continue to listen. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Raw Mints. That's where we post the majority of our content, and that's also where you can find us. So if you have any questions, or If you have any episode topics that you'd want us to talk about, reach out to us and we will get back to you as soon as we can. But for now, with that being said, this has been another episode of Wax Talk with Raw. With that being said, this has been another episode of Wax Talk with Raw Mints. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Bruce.
Thank you for listening.